That just loads a little bit slowly, but as soon as that's done, we're officially ready to get started. So it says all is going almost ready. Let's see. And that seems like it's all going well. Awesome. Well, first of all, welcome to this Master Your Exit live show powered by the Big. And I'll be your host for today. I also have Graham Stephen with me from BizFell. On this Master Your Exit live show, we bring you practical insights, expert interviews, and tools to help small business owners like yourself prepare for your big exit. This live show, for those of you who don't know that yet, we air every Tuesday at 7 a.m. PST, that's in Los Angeles, or 10 a.m. in EST, that's in New York, if you're over there. And if you're across the ocean, then we live air at 3 p.m. in London, so 3 p.m. GMT or 4 p.m. CET, that's Brussels time. We keep this show very short and very simple, 30 minutes maximum. And if you're tuning in on YouTube or on LinkedIn, on our channels there, welcome. If you are joining us live here in the virtual studio on Zoom, that's also very epic. It also means that you can drop all your exit questions in our studio chat. So feel free to do that because we will answer them live here on the show today. And if you're catching this episode later, not live, but later, you can find all of the episodes of the show on our website, thebigexit.co/master your exit shows. Or you can listen to the audio version on your favorite podcast channel. That's all for the intro for today. On today's show specifically, we're going to be diving into our free and independent business evaluation tool. We're going to do a live demo here, and that's why Graham is here with me as well. So we're going to do a live demo in just literally 30 seconds from now of our intelligent software that supports the world's only independent business valuation calculator. It's based on more than 4,500 business exits worth more than $30 billion in total value over 6 continents. So basically, this is the independent tool that will give you a very accurate business evaluation for you specifically. And it is free as well, which is pretty cool. And then after the demo, we'll walk you through the demo. And after that, Graham and I are here to answer any of your live questions. That was my quick intro. Is there something that you would love to add to that, Graham, before we get started with the demo?
Hey, Glenn, thanks, and wonderful to be here. And yeah, it's been a few rough days. I'm dealing with with a sick child who's been in hospital, so if I look a bit under the weather, that's the reason why. But we're here and excited to be here. I think just to talk about that, um, at Bizval, we do a number of different valuation solutions, and yeah, what we're demonstrating today is obviously which we've partnered with you on, and that's our free assessment tool. And whilst it's simple and easy to use and gives a very accurate indicative valuation, it is limited in some aspects, but it doesn't mean that the outputs are any less meaningful. And what we've tried to do here is to make it really, really simple so that you can get a very close range without some of the sort of more detailed and nuanced questions that you would do if you went through, one of the big exit programs or BizVal valuation, more detailed valuation. So it's really designed as a quick check to ground your expectations, understand some of those things. And I think today, Lynn, we're going to be going through that. Very simple demo. There's about 8 questions that we go through. You're going to go through the case study. And I think on each of those, we'll pause and just explain why each of those elements is really important. And behind each of those elements, if you go into sort of a more detailed valuation, you would kind of unpack them a little bit more. What we've tried to do with this is to highlight, those things that really matter. At the end of the day, evaluation is garbage in, garbage out. If you put bad data in, you're going to get the wrong answer out. So, I'm not going to focus too much on the numbers we're using today. It's a demo, but more around what does that number represent and why is it important that we ask that question? So excited to be here, and back to you, Lynn.
Yeah, great to frame that as well. So this is the free business valuation tool that we're going to walk you through, which is something that you can get access to if you're seeing all the little QR codes underneath Graham's and my face. It's the one totally on the left that says free independent business valuation. So if you scan that QR code, you get onto our website and directly to the free valuation program. And I'm just going to basically do a screen share so we can just go straight onto our website and we'll walk you through the valuation tool itself. So let me just open up my screen, making sure that I've got the right one. Yeah. So let's see if we can do a screen share. Yep. So if you scan that QR code that you see right below Graham's face, or if you go to thebigexit.co/business valuation tool with dashes in between, you get into this part of our website where you, as Graham was saying, you get like an indicative business valuation range that tells you something about how valuable your business is right now. So I'm just going to type in my name first, and for the sake of the demo, I'm just going to use mine. I'm not going to use, what's that name that is like a fake name that everybody uses?
John Doe.
Joe Doe or something like that. I don't know.
It's,
Yeah, right. But I'm just gonna use my own
it
name.
sounds like
So
an
just Lynn
episode
at the big.
of CSI.
Now, the reason why we ask for your email address is because that's where you will get your valuation range sent to. So at the end of completing all the questions, you will not get the valuation seen on our website, but we'll send you a separate email that has your valuation range in it. So make sure you complete a real email and not that of John Doe, because otherwise he will be getting your business valuation, and that's not the point. So
Lynn, just
as
to jump
Graham
in,
was
that is
saying,
important. Just to point out that while you need an email address, the company name is completely anonymized. So, to go through the process, you don't have to actually capture a company name. And that's quite important, especially when, you're using a tool like this for the first time, is the numbers can be real, but there's no risk of kind of exposing your company or anything like that. I mean, we do take massive data precautions in the back end, but I think that is an important point. And that's why we don't ask for the company name, just to, give users that sense of comfort and assurance on using a web-based tool.
thank you for clarifying that. That's so important, Graham. Appreciate that. So let's get started with the first question of 8. It has a drop-down menu, so it basically helps it helps in the back end to do the calculations a little bit more faster and easier, but it also helps you as the business owner to kind of go through the process relatively quickly. So how old is your business? There's a couple of options here. Let me just say 5 to 10 years. Graham, is there anything you
If
would
I
like to
may
add
just
to
jump
that
in on,
question?
yeah, on each of those, so the reason for the age of the business, what is the relevance of that? It talks to the risk and the maturity of the business. Usually, very early stage business, it's less than 3 years old. It usually doesn't have systems and processes properly established. You don't know whether that business is going to succeed or fail. But a business that's been going for 10 years, it's obviously got a bit more of a track record. So, the longer you've been there, the more proof points you've got. Generally, the less risky the business. So we use that information to kind of create a little bit of a map on where in the life journey of a business is this. In the back end, it will affect, the required rate of returns, which represent the risk of the business, as well as the multiples which we use in some of the calculations. So that info is important. It's not just there to make the questions longer. It's a marker in terms of stage of business and potentially how risky the business is. And that is obviously put together with some of the other questions which we'll go through now.
Amazing, thank you. Let's dive into the Second big question, what sector do you operate in? Let me choose one. Particularly, there's a lot of options you can choose from, so just have a slow look through it to make sure that you're picking the right one. I'll pick one that I'm most familiar with, which is maybe, let's say, service industry, non-IT. That sounds, or professional services. That sounds good. Graham, anything you'd like one particular? Valuation of a business dependent on the industry that the business is in?
Yeah, I think the important thing here is that, not all businesses are the same. You can have 300 different classifications and sectors of business. So we've tried to mix, have 20 different sectors and not 300, just so you can find the right one. Sometimes when you have all those different SIC codes and whatever, it can be quite difficult to say which one is mine. So these are categories. I think importantly, different categories generally would have different business valuations. So a mining business may be very different to an education business, for argument's sake. So again, the category of business that you're in has an impact on the risk of the sector, the growth potential of that business, and the risks inherent in that business. So it's really important that you kind of think about what sector you're in. For example, a business in the software as a service sector, generally high growth, may be more valuable than another business doing exactly the same profit or the same revenue, but in a low growth or dying sector. So that's the reason we ask for the sector. Again, it kind of buckets your business and puts it into the sort of category, and there's different growth and valuation factors attached to that.
Awesome. Thank you for clarifying that. Fifth question then, or the third actual question. What is your primary region of operations? So again, there's a bunch of options here. Why is that an important question to ask during this valuation process, right?
So I think, you'll see we don't have countries here. We've actually done this by region.
Yeah.
But again, it all comes down to risk. So risk and size of market. So each country has got different economic fundamentals. So things like your inflation rate, your interest rate, all of those things, those drive valuation. So all things else being equal, if you're in a big market with low interest rates and high growth potential, you could have exactly the same metrics in terms of revenue and profit and sector and everything, but generally the value would be higher in a developed, sophisticated market with low interest rates and low inflation rate. That's not always true, but it drives the fundamentals that underpin the valuation. And that's the reason we do that. I guess without sounding political, with all the trade wars and tit for tat going on at the moment, those things can also have an impact. But we haven't factored any of that in just yet. Let's see what plays out over the next few years. But yeah, it's really just to kind of say, what is the domain that you're playing on? How big is the field? And how risky is that field that you're playing in?
Got it. Just a side question here. I mean, there's going to be businesses that operate on a global scale. What is
Yeah.
considered primary region? Is this where you make the most revenue? Is that how you consider the primary region?
Yeah, it's a great question, Lynn. So I guess the businesses we deal with, and yourself as well, is generally businesses that are turning over between $1 million and maybe $20 million. So for the most part, they are more localized businesses as opposed to global multinationals and those sorts of things. But when you're completing this, if you're operating in more than one country, generally, take direction from where the majority of your revenue comes from. So for example, if you're operating in North America, UK, and Europe, and 65% of your revenue comes from North America, you'd select North America. So there's no hard and fast rule here. This is designed to kind of point you in the right direction rather than be precise down to like the 15th decimal point. So yeah, it's where the majority of your income comes from.
Got it. Thank you for clarifying that. So I'll put North America here, and then let's move on to the following question, which is currency. What does that have to do with valuation?
Well, the currency is really just, what are your financials reported in? So You might be based in the United Kingdom, but most of your business comes from the US. So the previous region you might have selected North America, but if your financial accounts and your bank accounts and that are reported in pounds and your expenses are reported in pounds, this is just to match with your reporting currency. Doesn't necessarily have to be the same as your primary region of
Got it.
operations, but yeah, just so that your report is delivered in the right currency, essentially.
Got it. Okay, awesome. Then let's talk a little bit about annual profit after tax.
Okay, this is
This is
a
one of the
really
key metrics, I guess, for valuation, right?
absolutely, and I think a lot of time people talk about multiples, so they'll say my business is valued at X multiple. Now, I've spoken about this a lot. A multiple is a bit like a sense check. It says, you know, we look at similar businesses, we look at what they're trading for in the market, and we match to that. Now, a multiple can be based on a bunch of different things. It can be based on revenue. It can be based on often what we call EBITDA. It can be based on profit before tax, profit after tax. So the first point I want to make is at the end of the day, it's about the ability of a business to generate cash profits now and into the future. So in this valuation tool, we simplify that and we say profit after tax. We're not trying to make any crazy adjustments for normalized earnings and all of those things which people love to do. We're keeping it really simple. Now, there's a few provisos here. If, for instance, you are the owner of the business and you're not drawing a salary or paying yourself a market related salary, your profit after tax is going to be inflated. Okay. So when you're doing this, just think about that. If you're not drawing a salary, you should probably adjust it by what a market related salary for you as the owner would be. That is one of the common adjustments that we need to make. But we've just tried to keep this simple. When a business gets to a certain size, profit after tax is actually a very good proxy for how much cash the business is making, especially in the kinds of businesses, Lynn, that we're talking about, owner managed businesses, family businesses, people in the sort of $1 to $2 million range. And it's probably a better proxy than revenue. If you've got two businesses each making $1 million in revenue, but one is making $500,000 a year profit and the other is making 50,000 a year profit, obviously the one with more profit is going to be more valuable. So that's why we ask for profit after tax. The other thing just to point out here is different regions have different tax rates. So in this tool, in the back end, in the algorithm, in that, for the different region that we've used, we have the tax rate for that region. So that's why we're using an after tax rate so that there's absolutely no confusion. If one country's got a 50% tax rate and another's got a 20% tax rate, we're comparing apples with apples. We're looking at what's left after taxes have been paid. So yeah, that's the only point I want to elaborate on profit after tax.
Amazing. And I think this question also highlights, I think, one of the differences that happens between a free valuation like this one, which is a very simplified version that gives you some form of a solid range, but still a range, versus actually, like getting a valuation through like our 7-figure exit program, where you go
Yeah.
into so much more detail with these numbers, because as you can see, things can get quite complicated relatively quickly once you dive into more details. But obviously, as you were saying here, Graham, I mean, it's a free tool. We'll try to keep it as simple as possible. So annual profit after tax is the measure that we are taking here for this tool. So thank you for
Yeah, I think
clarifying
you
that
make
as
a
well.
very good point there. If you go through the 7-figure exit program, it's always good to have an expert, and in that program you have an expert in your corner when you go through the more detailed numbers. So in there you'll dive into things like how concentrated is your customer risk, what is your unit economics, so your margins, for argument's sake. So it does unpack it into quite a bit more detail. But for purposes of that, we actually find that a lot of business owners, they don't quite understand that, so that they get that wrong. So that's why we've kept it really simple. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right, let's move to the almost final question. A few more to go.
Yeah.
Expected annual growth rate over the next 3 years. There's another drop-down box here, so I'm just going to select one. Why is growth rate important or expected growth rate important for valuation?
Okay, so if we go back to the first principles around valuation, somebody is buying future profits. So, how much money is the business making now, and how much money can it make into the future? So, it's all about understanding what the potential of the business is. So, a faster growing company is invariably more valuable than a slow growing company, all things else being equal. So that growth rate, and it's not just next year, one good year, what do they say? One sparrow does not a summer make, I think, if I've got my if I got it right.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
a fast growing company who's able to sustain that growth over a long period of time is more attractive than a slow growing company. And you can use that analogy in anything in life. If you're a sports person, somebody who's improving a lot is likely to get better than somebody who's just kind of stagnating if they're starting from the same point. So growth is really, really important, and it's a key driver of future profits. So that's why that's captured. And just a note, when you're filling this out, you can fool yourself and go and say, hey, I'm going to grow at 30% a year. The idea when you're completing this is to be as accurate as possible. Like, what have you achieved in the past based on the plans you've got for your business? What can you do in the next 3 years, and make your best judgment and best estimate of that. You're just kidding yourself if you put a higher number in than what reality is. So that's what this represents, the ability of your business to create growing future profits, and that's why it's so important.
Yeah, and the more transparent and open and you not fooling yourself in this exercise, the more accurate the numbers are going to come out. And as Graham was saying already before, everything is confidential here. So these numbers are just for you. And it's about setting expectations. So indeed, as Graham was saying, don't fool yourself, just add how things in reality are. And that's how you will get the most accurate business valuation from this exercise. Now, I love this question. If you take a 3-week holiday, what happens? I love a question like that. We ask it to our clients all the time. So why this question in a business?
So, I mean, this question, as I say, we wanted to be a little bit playful with this question, but one of the single biggest issues, so this talks both to value, but also sellability. And I know in your sellability score, we dive into that, but it's a proxy, Lynn. So what this does is it says when somebody wants to acquire your business, generally, they don't want to acquire a business that they're working 18-hour days and from dawn to dusk and not having a chance to actually enjoy the profits of that. So this talks to a number of different things. Most importantly is how dependent is the business on the owner. Okay. So if the owner can't take a day or two off without the business falling over, very unlikely that somebody is going to buy that business and pay fair value. They might buy the business, but they're going to offer a much lower price for that. So really, really important. I mean, there's a wonderful program on, I think it's HBC. It's an old series called The Bear. It's about a guy who takes over a New York restaurant, and they're really grinding and slaving away there. And, I mean, that kind of business, not many people would want a business like that. So that's a proxy. It actually, underneath all of that, it's like, do you have sales systems and processes? Do you have good financial records? Do you have succession planning in place? It kind of brings all those questions together in one, and gives a fairly accurate read, I guess, in terms of how your valuation needs to be adjusted. So that's the purpose behind it. It's a fun question. It's one that most business owners understand and at the tip of their tongue. If you had to say to somebody, do you have a properly configured CRM system? Some people might not quite know what that means, whereas I think everybody can understand this and answer it accurately.
Most owners can understand what it means to take 3 weeks off. Whether we all do it, that's something else, but at least we know what it is.
It depends whether you're in the US or in Europe. Most Europeans take the whole of August off, but most Americans maybe take 5 days.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's a very cultural thing indeed. So the final question of this valuation, and we just have a few minutes left, so we're just going to dive through it. Why are you doing this valuation? This is more for us to kind of know, like, Are you just curious about knowing what your business is worth? Are you thinking of selling? Or maybe you're thinking of buying another company? Or, maybe you're doing some strategic planning and you want to grow the value of your business and you want to have some kind of a baseline. So that's the main reason. Any reason why you're doing evaluation is a good reason. We're really excited that you're willing to do evaluation because it's kind of like a stick in the ground of like where your business is right now. And you can consider it as one of your major KPIs in your business, besides maybe revenue and profitability. Knowing what your business is worth is a valuable KPI to know. And it's something that you can then kind of work towards improving. So. And then I assume there's nothing you want to add there, so I'm just gonna
I think
submit.
that's it. I mean, it's important to know it won't change the value, but it is important to know why. And we always advocate, even if you just do the free valuation, do it every year. It's like going for your annual health check, right? You might not want to go for the full screening with a physician, but at very least just get a cholesterol and blood pressure reading once a year, and you're better off not doing that. So, that's why I think it's a uh, don't just think about it for an event. It's something worthwhile doing on a periodic basis.
Amazing. And whilst we are just 20 seconds chatting away, the software in the background has already done the business valuation. So that email that you have entered in all the way at the beginning, when you started the business valuation tool, that's the email where you're going to get the results as well. So those results have now already popped into my inbox. If it's not there, literally within 10 seconds, check your spam folder, check your junk mail to make sure that it didn't land there. But you should almost get it straight away. So I can just open that email right now and share my screen as well. Let me just stop the sharing and then open my email. There it is. I ran a little as well, but actually already got into, so I can just open up the email that just got into my mailbox and share my screen again. There it is. If you can all see it right now. So what you will get is this email called Express Valuation. And it says, Dear Linda Paw, thank you for conducting the valuation. It tells a little bit more about what the Big Exit is, which is an exclusive network of small business owners seeking their big exit by multiplying the value of their business, getting exit ready. And this is the result that you are getting when you're doing the business valuation free tool with us. Is there anything you'd love to elaborate specifically on this one before we wrap up this demo?
Yeah, I think just very importantly is that, it's the range is fairly accurate, provided you've answered the questions honestly and accurately. We would always advocate if you want to go beyond this, then it's worth moving into the seven-figure exit program where you get a more detailed, curated valuation. Often the number doesn't change in that, but what does happen in that is, like we've done on this webinar, we look at your business and unpack for your business what are the levers that you can pull to either increase that or decrease that. And this is just, it's a sanity check. A lot of people come to us and they say, my business should be worth $10 million because my neighbor or my friend at the golf course sold his business for $10 million. So sometimes people get this and it's a bit of a reality check. But I think that's the power of this. It's quick, it's simple, it's easy to do, and it grounds you in reality. If this is not a number that you're expecting, reach out to Lynn or somebody on the team and discuss it. There's usually a reason that underpins that. So don't get too obsessed about the number. It's important. The things that make up that number, as we discussed today, are far more important than the number itself, and it empowers you then to go and either prepare your business for sale or to just make improvements in your business. So that's all I want to add, Lynn.
Thank you so much for doing so. And yeah, I fully agree. Like this is like your little stick in the ground as like your first, let's say, like sanity check on what your business is worth. And just so you know, for a lot of business owners that we get to work with, and Graham probably can agree with that as well, is that often the numbers are you might be expecting for your business, and that's okay. It's absolutely normal. And like in the seven-figure exit program, we will give you all the instruments that you need in order to increase the value of your business. So if the number is lower than what you are expecting, you're not alone. It's very normal for most of the business owners. That is exactly the case. If you want to do this free valuation, you can go to thebigexit.co, free resources, that's where you can get it. Or if you see the QR codes here underneath our faces, then it's the one on the left that says free independent business valuation, and then it brings you straight to the demo tool, and you can enter your details there, and you'll get your valuation range, basically, as you saw, within 10 seconds of completing the form. Now,
Fantastic, Lynn. Thanks for having me. And yeah, it's been wonderful to engage all our listeners. And yeah, I guess we'll be back next week, same time, same place, right?
Absolutely. So that's a wrap for this week's episode of the Master Your Exit live show. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Graham, as well, to be here today. And we're looking forward to have you next week as well. I hope if you have been watching this, that you're leaving with valuable insights on how to prepare your business for your big exit. And remember, you can catch the replay of this episode and all other episodes on our website at thebigexit.co, Master Your Exit shows, or you can listen to your favorite podcast platform if you prefer to listen rather than watch. And we'd love to hear from you as well. You can send in your exit questions before next week's show by heading over to the Big Exit /Master Your Exit sign up. You can sign up there. You can send us your exit questions, and we answer them live on future episodes. We'll be back next Tuesday at 7 a.m. if you're in Los Angeles, 10 a.m. if you're in New York, 3 p.m. if you're in London, or 4 p.m. if you're in Brussels, with more tips, expert interviews, and tools to help you master your exit. Until then, I would say keep building, keep preparing, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much.
Ciao.